This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Baruch Haba, welcome everyone. Good afternoon, or for you, I believe it's a good evening. I had the great pleasure a couple of months ago to speak on a tour with Rabbi Pesach Krohn in Spain and Morocco. We actually made a trip to Gibraltar. We were there for a day, and I had a really wonderful opportunity to meet a number of the wonderful young men of your community. I even had the great pleasure, a couple of them came back to Spain where we had a small shiur. And I have to tell you that walking in the streets of Gibraltar, I experienced a very unusual Kedusha. It was very hard for me to explain it. And then I realized after studying the demographics of world Jewry, aside from Eretz Yisrael, what I discovered was that there are more Jews per capita in Gibraltar than really anywhere else in the entire world. In other words, even here in America, where we have millions of Jews, I think for every Jew in America, there are 53 citizens. In Gibraltar, from my understanding, it's 1 to 48. So actually the highest concentration of Klal Yisrael in the world, aside from Eretz Yisrael, is Gibraltar. So if you can't be in Artzeinu HaKadosha, you might as well be in Gib, right? So with that introduction, I want to give you an overview. I know you've been studying in depth the Harchakos, but what I would like to do with you this evening, instead of speaking about specific Harchakos, I would like to speak about the Hashkafah behind the Harchakos and show you a little bit the interface between Hashkafah and Halacha. What I mean by that is as follows. There's a Gemara Masechta Niddah. You don't have it on the sheet. The Gemara, I believe, is on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis. The Gemara says, Shahaya Reb Meir Omer. Reb Meir used to say, Mipnei ma Umra Torah Niddah Asra l'Shiva Yamim. Why does the Torah say that a Niddah is forbidden for 7 days? And the Gemara says, Mipnei Sharagil ba v'katzba. You could become so accustomed to one's wife, the relationship grows stale. Therefore, lefikach amra Torah. Therefore, the Torah says that the niddah is asur for 7 days. Shetehei chaviva al bala kishas knisasa l'chuppah. That it enhances the love that a husband has for his wife, like the night of the chuppah. Now, this is a very important idea. What it means as follows. That means all of the restrictions of Hilchos Niddah, all the Harchakos, is not for richuk. The purpose of them is for kiruv. The purpose of them is to bring the husband and wife closer together. So while we're studying the details of how to be marachek, the purpose, the function of it is kedei lakarev. Now, obviously this is something that everybody is aware of, but what I would like to mention to you is that this hashkafah, and this philosophy, we may call it, actually has halachic ramifications. So for instance, in the very beginning of Hilchos Niddah, there's a commentary of the Toras Hashlamim. Toras Hashlamim makes the following argument. He says if the entire purpose of Hilchos Niddah is to create closeness between husband and wife, he says something very interesting. He says, then it would come out that a woman who's not yet married, who had her cycle, and now is getting married for the first time, she could actually, if she started her cycle the day before, she could go to the mikveh immediately without counting Shiva Nekiyim, without waiting 7 days. Why? He says the whole purpose of Hilchos Niddah is to engender closeness between husband and wife. But if they're not yet husband and wife, then there would be no purpose in waiting 7 days. Halachically, he paskins at least, that a single woman, if she experiences her flow, if they're not yet married, she could go to the mikveh the next day, she could get married without waiting Shiva Nekiyim. Now, I'm not bringing this to your attention because this is specifically the halacha. What I'm trying to show you is that the hashkafah of Hilchos Niddah and the philosophy behind it actually make a difference, halacha, lemaisa, that it spells a difference practically. So, what I'd like to discuss with you in the limited amount of time that we have is to get an understanding of the background of Hilchos Niddah in terms of the following. Everyone could hear me? Yeah? Okay. So, we know that there are two possible reasons that a person would go to the mikvah. The typical reason is to make somebody tahar, to make somebody pure. Impurity, tumah, is a real thing. It's a substantive, it's an actual thing. If you make your friend's object tameh, you're considered a mazik. You're a damager. You have to pay them. Tumah is an actual thing. But there's another type of immersion in a mikvah, which is for an entirely different reason. And that is, sometimes we would go to the mikvah not to make ourselves tahar, but to elevate. For instance, let's say if a non-Jew wants to convert, a ger goes to the mikvah not for tahara, not for purity, but as an aliyah, to elevate the ger. Or for instance, you buy a vessel from a non-Jew, tevilas kelim. The purpose of the tevilas kelim is not to purify the kli. It's because this kli is now being elevated to a new status. It needs to be immersed. Or the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. When the Kohen Gadol immerses himself on Yom Kippur, he's not immersing himself for the purpose of tahara. He's pure. He's been in the Beis HaMikdash the entire day. The purpose of his immersion is for aliyah, is to elevate his status. There's even an interesting minhag brought in Shulchan Aruch. If somebody chas v'shalom shmad, somebody converts to another religion, then wants to come back, they go to the mikvah. It's not to purify themselves. It's to elevate their status. So the question then is, what is the purpose, what is the function of Hilchos Niddah? Is it to purify the woman, or is it to elevate the woman? And this is, you may not be aware, but this is under attack. The reform movement, the feminist movement, they're not happy with Harchakos Niddah. They feel that we're labeling a woman tameh, that we're saying she's impure. You're interfering with the marriage. Are you saying this woman is like a leper? She has to go michutz lamachaneh? What are these Harchakos all about? And sometimes a woman is waiting to get pregnant, and then all of a sudden she experiences her flow. So you're adding mental anguish to her. You're adding insult to injury. So it's very important to understand. The Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, "Da masha tashiv la'apikores." Know how to answer. Know how to respond to apikores. That I put on the sheet. It doesn't say da malih hashiv. It doesn't say you should actually answer the apikores. We're not having ecumenical debates with the apikarsim. But you, every Jew, needs to be aware, what would you answer the apikores? Interesting, in the Sefer Sifsei Chaim, Rabbi Chaim Friedlander, you'll take a look at all the Marmakamis, maybe on your free time. I just put many on the sheet. He points out, who is this apikores? The apikores is the Yetzer Hara inside of all of us, that sometimes we have these nagging questions, but we should be able to address them. What's the response? How do we answer the apikores inside of us, the Yetzer Hara? And the answer is that it's important for everyone to be aware that as you're learning Hilchos Niddah and the Harchakos specifically, they really have absolutely nothing to do with the laws of Tumah and Tahara, and they are merely a matter of Isser and Heter. They are not laws of purity and impurity. They are the laws of what is permitted and what is prohibited. I'll give you a very interesting example, somewhat a humorous example. There's a famous tshuva in the Niddah B'Yehuda, Rabbi Cheskel Landau. And in Madura Tinyana, you have it on your sheet in number 4, Niddah B'Yehuda was posed with a very unusual question. The husband and wife, they're asleep, and the guy wakes up, he says, Mazel tov, the baby was born. She said, what are you talking about? He said, you didn't hear it? I heard the baby crying, the baby came out. The one said, are you crazy? The baby came out. Go back to sleep. He said, no, I heard the baby. Actually, the Gemara discusses a case, a rather rare case, where a baby comes out, sticks his head out, and comes back in. And the man was so troubled by his experience, he went to the Niddah B'Yehuda, and he said, Rebbe, I think the baby was born. Is my wife a Niddah? Because we know that it's impossible for the baby to come out if the womb didn't open, and the Gemara says a rule that the womb will never open unless blood flows. And the Niddah B'Yehuda said, well, how do we deal with this case? Because there are two realms of halacha. There's a realm of tumah and tahara, and there's a realm of mutter and asr. In the realm of tumah and tahara, there's a law that whenever you're masupik about something, whenever you have a doubt about something, if it's in a public domain, we say tav safek, tumah, b'rshus harabim, tahar. If you have a doubt about tumah in a public domain, we say she's tahar. On the other hand, if you have a suffix about whether someone is tameh or tahar in a reshus hayach in a private domain, we say tameh. So this doubt occurred in the private domain. you would expect that the law should be Safek Tumah B'Reshus HaYachid, a doubtful halacha about Tumah B'Reshus HaYachid, Tameh. And says no, we don't apply that law. This is not a matter of mutter and asur. This is a matter, this is not a matter of tamei and tar. It's a matter of isur v'heter. And therefore we apply a completely different system of halacha. The Shev Shmaitza, in the Olam HaYeshivos, in the yeshiva world, the classic sefer of Talmudic analysis, the Shev Shmaitza, he enunciates in Shmaitza Aleph Parak Yud Beis, you have it on your sheet number 5, that the laws of Niddah are not laws of Tameh and Tahar. It's not that when a woman is a Niddah, she is impure, and when she is not a Niddah, she's pure. That has nothing to do with any of the halachas that we're learning. The laws of Niddah are Yerodea, they're Isser v'Heter, kosher and not kosher. They're not laws of Tameh and Tara. We're not labeling the woman. There's no stigma on the woman. This is merely halachas of Isser v'Heter. And therefore it has halachic ramifications. This is supposed to be a shiur about the Harchakos. I'll tell you one of the Harchakos. One of the Harchakos is, not only one cannot come into contact with one's wife when she's a Niddah, the halach is one cannot touch the clothing of one's wife when she's a Niddah. Even if you're not actually touching one's wife, even her clothing, you can't come into contact with it when she's a Niddah. But that's only when she's wearing the clothing. But what if you want to fold her clothing, or you want to do her laundry? Are you allowed to handle the clothing of a woman when she's a Niddah? The answer is, of course you are. So the Pischei Tshuva, you have it on your sheet over here, number 6, Pischei Tshuva discusses why are you allowed to handle her clothing. If her clothing are tameh, we know that whatever a Niddah carries or wears is tameh. So if she wore it, how could you fold her clothing? How could you handle her clothing? She's tameh and her clothing are tameh. The answer is, says the Pischei Tshuva, the laws of Niddah are not connected in any way with the laws of Tumah v'Tara. They are merely heter and isser. And therefore, when she's wearing that, we're worried. And this is also, I just want to share with you a very important insight. Sometimes people question the Harchakos in general. What's going to happen if I hand something to my wife? Something's going to happen. It's an innocuous thing. It's a pretty innocent activity. It's very important to know that the same way that relations with a woman when she's a Niddah is an Isser D'Oraisa, according to many Rishonim, intimate contact is also an Isser D'Oraisa. Chibuk and Nishuk, hugging and kissing, is also an Isser D'Oraisa. Many of the Harchakos are a distance not only from the relations themselves, but from any interaction of affection. Many of the Harchakos are to distance a person from Chibuk v'Nishuk. And therefore, they're not connected to Tumah v'Tara. They are merely laws of Isser v'Heter, and therefore when the woman is wearing the clothing, you can't come in contact with them. When she's not, a person's allowed to do the laundry or fold the clothing of Ishtay Niddah. The truth is, the Vilna Gaon expresses this very clearly, and this is a very important idea. There's a pasuk in Parsha Shoftim that sort of gives us the main branches of halacha. It's talking about a Zakein Mamre. Zakein Mamre is an elder who feels that he could argue on the Bezin Haggadah in Yerushalayim. And the pasuk says that Ki Palei Mimcha Davar, if something is beyond you, La Mishpat, and then the pasuk gives 3 branches of halacha. Bein Dam Ledam, Bein Din Ledin, Uvein Nega Lo Nega. These are the 3 main branches of halacha, and the Gaon defines what are these 3 branches. So the Vilna Gaon says, it's on your sheet number 8, Dam ledam are the various types of blood. Certain bloods are permitted, certain bloods are asur, and very important to be aware. During the time that a woman is undergoing her Shiva Nikiyim, her 7 clean days, she's performing an internal examination twice a day, ideally, or at the very least on the first day and the 7th day. And sometimes what she finds is permitted, and sometimes what she finds is prohibited. It has to be shown to a competent halachic authority. That is one branch of halacha, dam ladam, different types of blood. The next branch of halacha is din ladin, various monetary laws, chosh and mishpat. And then finally, uvei nega lanega are the laws of purity and impurity. Says the Vilna Gaon, the laws of Dam Ledam, which are the laws of Tumah v'Tara, are not Tumah v'Tara. The laws of dam ledam are halachos of iser v'heter. The laws of purity and impurity are bein nega lo nega. These are two distinct branches of halacha. One branch is iser v'heter, that's dam ledam, and one branch is ubein nega lo nega, tuma v'tara. And they have nothing to do with each other. In fact, the Niddah Yehuda points out, very important to know, where in the Torah does it talk about the prohibition of living with a Niddah? Parshas Achrei Mos. Where in the Torah does it talk about the concept that a Niddah is Tameh? Parshas Mitzayra. The fact that the Torah discusses these halachas in different parshas means, says the Niddah Yehuda, they're not related to each other. The reason for Isurei Niddah they don't stem from the laws of purity and impurity. They are merely laws of Isur V'Heter. And then, finally, the truth is, this is enunciated very clearly already by the Rishonim, the Kuzari, Rabbi Yehuda Halevi. He writes in the Sefer Kuzari, you have it on your sheet at number 9, that in Maimer Gimel, Ois Mem Tes, he says very clearly, Ma she'etzleinu hayoim me'isr shchivas hanida. That which we maintain, the prohibition of living with a niddah, einoi mipnei hatuma, is not because of impurity. He says it black and white. It's not a matter of purity and impurity. This is a matter, he says, aval hi mitzvah greda me'es haboirei. It is a commandment from the Rebbeinu Shalom. All the laws of Yoredeya are not matters of Tumah V'Tara, they are matters of Isser V'Heter. And therefore, it's important to realize that all of the Harchakos are a Gezerah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That we don't come to relations with Ishtay Niddah. And the purpose of them are what the Gemara says in Masechta Niddah that we started with, that Rameir used to say, Mibnei Ma Amra Torah, Niddah Asr L'Shivas Yamim. The reason for the Isser of Niddah, the reason for all of the Harchakos, are to bring an elevation to the woman. When a Niddah goes to the mikvah, the purpose is not to be matayar her. The Niddah goes to the mikvah like the Kohen Gadol goes to the mikvah. The Niddah goes to the mikvah to elevate her status with her husband, so that the ava v'achva between them should be elevated to the way it was on the Yom HaChuppah. So, I would like to be mavarich all of you who have gathered here today. I think we have about, most of the population of the country of Gibraltar here in the room. Just joking. And I want to be mavarich all of you that we should all be zoicha, that through dedication to the study of the laws of Niddah and dedication to the observance of the laws of Niddah, the Rebbeinu Shalom should elevate all of our relationships with our spouses. We should have all nachas from all of our children, and the Rebbeinu Shalom should bless us all with parnasa, with good health. V'malei Hashem kol m'sha'aseinu l'toiva. Thank you so much for listening. Bracha v'hatzlacha. Hatzlacha, Rabbi.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.